Digitalization. We've all heard about it, we are going through it, but are you really getting the most out of it? And are your electrical assets even a part of that equation? Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of ThoughtXchange. The topic we'll be covering today focuses on the digitalization and modernization of electrical systems.
It is the process where we bring our electrical systems data, especially the data of our electrical breakers, relays, any electrical asset that we have in the switchgear side. We bring that information to our control system, to our SCADA system. So that entire journey is the electrical digitalization. So in terms of greenfield projects, normally the new systems, the new electrical assets are pretty much equipped to support the electrical digitalization. However, when we talk about the legacy systems, that involves a complete roadmap journey. There are certain aspects like whether it comes to the organizational readiness, the commitment of the organization, whether the organization wants to do it in a one go or they are just interested to do that in a pilot project and then they want to see what are the benefits. One of the recent projects was done in a fertilizer plant, one of the biggest plants in the world, as well as the market cap around $3 billion. We provided them with redundant network system, equipped with, let's say, cybersecurity OT requirements as well. So that was an improvement on the network side. And in terms of the SCADA or the digitalization, so we gave them this digital twin.
Digitalization. We've all heard about it, we are going through it, but are you really getting the most out of it? And are your electrical assets even a part of that equation? Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of ThoughtXchange. The topic we'll be covering today focuses on the digitalization and modernization of electrical systems. And for that, we are joined here by Mr. Usman. Usman, please.
Hi Amit, thanks for the invite. And I'm Usman Dhody and I'm currently working in Electrical Solutions Department as a project manager. I have around 14 years of professional experience in industrial automation as well as in electrical technologies. With projects, it's been around 6 years and I'm dealing with multi-vision projects, especially related to electrical automation projects. I am excited to be a part of this session.
When we talk about digitalization, I think pretty much everyone understands the basics of digitalization, but the general perception of digitalization is that it is the digitalization of your processes, it's the digitalization of your control or safety systems where you have some data points that need to be monitored and some decision or actions need to be taken accordingly. When you talk about electrical, I think the general perception is that you have mostly linear systems, you turn on a few switches and breakers, you've got your power coming and things are good to go. Would you want to challenge that?
Well, Ahmed, let us first understand the concept of electrical digitalization. Primarily, it is the process where we bring our electrical systems data, especially the data of our electrical breakers, relays, any electrical asset that we have in the switchgear side. We bring that information to our control system, to our SCADA system. So that entire journey is the electrical digitalization. Now, when we talk about the electrical data, this data can be, either it's the energy consumption, the wattage, the amperes, the volt, the frequency, as well as the protection information of the relays. We bring that into our electrical automation system, and the objective is to get a real-time monitoring of our electrical assets to optimize their health, as well as when we are gathering all the information about our electrical assets, their consumptions, we can then develop energy dashboards. We can move towards the optimization of the energy. So eventually this journey enables us to not only reduce downtime, increase our the health of our assets, but also optimize the energy consumption on the operation side.
Energy optimization is a very interesting idea because there's a lot of growth around data centers pretty much everywhere around the world. And those are, of course, very energy intensive types of infrastructure. But when it comes to maybe more traditional systems like your production facilities or plants or your manufacturing facilities, do they really gain a lot in energy optimization because they'll have to invest a lot to go towards digitalization?
Yes, I mean, this is a very important aspect that, not only the latest systems, they are, let's say, somehow equipped with this digitalization. However, the legacy systems, they, in my opinion, they need more of this digitalization. The reason is this, that, the legacy system has almost served or they are very near to end of their lives. Now, electrical digitalization enables them to deliver more value as well as in a safer way. When we talk about safer way, once we are going to observe the health of the asset, then we can do the preventive and the predictive maintenance. Secondly, we can also analyze that if what is the capacity or efficiency that we are getting from our legacy systems. And then eventually we can decide whether it is a good time to invest in retrofitting that equipment, or it is, let's say, enough time where we can continue with our legacy system as it is, provided that it is safe in operation. So that being said, it is quite important that we keep our focus in electrical digitalization on legacy systems.
An organization that is ready to digitalize their electrical assets, or they want to figure out where and how to get started to start reaping all these benefits you mentioned, how should they go about it?
Well, Ahmed, this can be approached in two contexts. One is the greenfield projects, and the other is the brownfield projects. So, in terms of greenfield projects, normally the new systems, the new electrical assets are pretty much equipped to support the electrical digitalization. However, when we talk about the legacy systems, that involves a complete roadmap journey, and this can be broken down further, let's say, into three components. But before explaining those, the first important thing is the strategic planning that we must undergo, or an organization undergoes, in which they decide that what are the key objectives of doing this electrical digitalization, whether they want to increase the health of their systems, whether they want to make the systems more safer, to reduce downtime. So once that path is clear, then we come down that how do we achieve that electrical digitalization. And in that case, the first step is to do a risk assessment or health assessment of the existing electrical infrastructure. That whatever systems in the switch gears and the breakers, the relays that we have, how much do they inherently support this journey, or do we have to do some minor upgrades in the electrical setup in order to make them speak with the digital system? That is the first part. The second is the because eventually the electrical system, or all the electrical parameters have to be communicated to a SCADA system. So there needs to be a network infrastructure developed, because legacy systems, they don't have any inbuilt or already developed network setup. So we have to see, and we have to let's say develop all the network layout for that system. And the last part is, once the data is coming to the SCADA system, then we need to see that the people who are going to operate those systems, how well equipped, well trained, and committed they are towards utilization of that part. So that is also very important. Sometimes we deliver a project, but eventually if the commitment is not good, then we are not getting the real benefits. So that are the main let's say steps when we talk about digitalization, and digitalization a legacy brown legacy system.
So, are there any tools that help you do a formal assessment or set a roadmap for how you want to go forward with this digitalization?
So when we talk about the formal technologies to perform this electrical digitalization, the first and the most commonly used industry practice is the SIRI, which is Smart Industry Readiness Index. We do a thorough risk assessment and the health assessment of the electrical assets. Once that is done, we are clear that again what kind of minor upgrades are required at the electrical infrastructure side. Once that is clear, then we do a complete understanding or journey of the network that needs to be developed. And then we also, once the data is available, we go towards the visualization part, where we understand that okay, what information is to be made available to the operators, what information is important for the maintenance people. So then we perform the visualization, which is the graphics development, bringing all the data. And in that context, we develop energy dashboards that eventually help the management side to understand what's going on in their electrical assets or electrical systems. So that's generally a method that we adopt while we are going towards the electrical digitalization projects.
So, have you worked on any projects where you were a part of the digitalization team and you did the electrical part of it?
Yes, let's say we have done several projects on electrical digitalization. One of the renowned projects was done in a fertilizer plant, one of the biggest plants in the world, as well as with a market cap of around 3 billion USDs. So in that project, like that involved in fact a mixture of both legacy as well as new systems. Uh, we had to digitalize the old systems as well as the customer was introducing some new switch gears in their infrastructure. So that had to be brought into the SCADA system as well. And in the old system, there was some manual operations of load management that the client was doing at their end. And one of the key objectives of this project was to bring all that load shedding system, load management system to the automated system that we achieved to our dynamic load shedding system.
Did this also require upgrading some legacy hardware on the client side?
Well, on the client side, we did some minor upgrades to bring the required information that the client wanted to be brought to the electrical side. Then we led a complete or we upgraded their network setup that was, let's say, infused with the OT cybersecurity requirements as well. And then, we gave a client the feature of digital twin as well
Did
as
they have an existing electrical network or did you set it up for them?
they had a very, let's say, weak or you can say very basic system. We provided them with redundant network system equipped with, let's say, cybersecurity OT requirements as well. So that was an improvement on the network side. And in terms of the SCADA or the digitalization, so we gave them this digital twin as well as dynamic load shedding system. So now after the upgrade, the operators, they don't have to manually look after that what is the load side or how good is their generation. If there is any abnormality in the plant, the
It is
system
now
is
automated.
capable enough to do the triggers as per the priority that has been defined in the system. Also, our system, the system that we delivered, had enough, or you can say it was doing all the real-time monitoring of the infrastructure as well as the energy parameters. So any abnormality is quickly recorded in the system, and the operators, they can now take a very preempt decision if something is out of the normal. So, that is one of the key objectives that every customer targets when going towards this electrical digitalization.
So you've done many projects, including this one. If you talk about some of the typical challenges or pitfalls that are faced by organizations that go through this journey, what would those be?
Well, the first and the important thing is to the customer has to understand that to what extent they want to digitalize their process, because this digitalization comes with some capital investment. So sometimes the customer wishes to digitalize too much, but as we move along the process, the customer has constraints on the budget. So the
It becomes a wish list where everyone wants a bit of, let's
yeah,
do this, let's do that as well,
because
and the budget keeps going up.
with the advancement of technology tools like AI, IoT, everybody wants that the information that is coming to the scheduler is now coming to their either mobile phones, or they can get information through some cloud softwares. So there is a layered approach that we have to adopt, that and that client has to understand that based on the requirement, there is some capital investment. So we need to balance this part, and this is one of the challenges that eventually we face into. So the objective is to set the, let's say, the outcomes of the project very clear, so that those expectations are also met.
Yeah.
The
So
other challenge, let's say, I would say, is regarding the cybersecurity or the OT. That that we as a team, we provide a definite and well-equipped solutions to our client, because in the old systems where the data is not digitalized, the information is all recorded manually. It is not transmitted over some physical channels, over some cloud channels. But now, once we digitalize the process, the information that is being transmitted has to be secured as well. So that is the another challenge that we see. And whenever we are doing a project, we definitely take care of this part, and we incorporate the cybersecurity standards.
And is it security just at the plant level where you've got your SCADA networks, or is it also where you're providing this information down to the business systems or the ERP systems?
It's at the both level. If we talk about the plant level or the physical layers, so we do incorporate necessary firewalls, necessary hardening policies to cater that requirement. And if we talk about the enterprise layer, so there we do deploy the cybersecurity policies, so that if even if the information has to be transmitted on some cloud platform, that is being done on a very secured manner. So it's done at both levels basically.
So sometimes you might have the budgets and you've got the approvals to do the digitalizations, but your OEMs or vendors may not have those systems in stock. Are there any challenges like that for electrical modernization?
Yeah, basically, with the since the advancement of the technology and how the things are evolving and how the demand is increasing for this electrical digitalization, so we do have to sometimes face this challenge as well. Sometimes the client, if he has a certain OEM install base, they prefer to go with that. But sometimes, we have to see that whether those timelines are being fulfilled by the OEM or not, or we have to propose some alternative OEMs. So definitely, with the increase of this technology, with the increase of digital systems, we do face some backlogs, or we do have some constraints when deciding for the deliveries of the projects. And the better way is to definitely plan ahead in advance to take care of this challenge.
Speaking of vendors and systems that are locked in, there may be cases when you would maybe go for a different vendor, or you are on a tight budget and you actually have to then change your preferred systems. That raises the concern of interoperability. Is that something that is a major hindrance?
Yes, definitely, especially when you talk about the legacy system. So we have to first check that what is their interoperation with different components, with different controllers, because eventually there is a limitation, like to what extent what hardware is eventually supported at the control side as well as at the switchgear side. So this is definitely an integral part when we are evaluating different options, that what can be proposed to the customer. We definitely have to assess the interoperability of that switchgear, the installed switchgear, with the solution that we are proposing. So that is definitely taken into account, and sometimes this poses us a challenge as well. So the idea is this, that whatever let's say possible solutions, possible adaptabilities we can do, we only stick to those solutions, rather going into a let's say complete mix of products. So that is very important. The other aspect that is, let's say, linked with interoperability is eventually it also sometimes reflects on the final execution or the downtime. Because when you are going
Yeah,
to,
that was going to be our next issue,
yeah, because
probably the
eventually
biggest one.
once the everything, the design, the let's say the system is in place, but it is not integrated with the existing setup. So there has to be, let's say, generally, because in we are doing in oil and gas industry, in power plants, so we do require a certain downtime in order to link our new system with the existing setup. So in that scenario, interoperability definitely comes into play, and we see that what are the possible ways to do online migration of the existing setup with the new setup. We develop, let's say, extensive plans for this, and eventually, if there is a certain requirement of the downtime, that it is obviously discussed with the customer, and we try to plan it in the best way we can. But downtime is also one of the challenges. But once that transition is done, eventually the customer can reap the benefits of the advancement or the, let's say, the project that has been delivered.
So it's interesting that downtime also often reveals another major problem, that is the organizational mindset, particularly at the personnel and people level. What kind of challenges do you face there when it comes to electrical assets?
Well, in this context, there are certain aspects, like whether it comes to the organizational readiness, the commitment of the organization, whether the organization wants to do it in a one go, or they are just interested to do that in a pilot project, and then they want to see what are the benefits. And then the other challenge is regarding the skill set of the people, because this is a completely automated system. The If the operators are not trained enough to look into the alarms, the visuals that the system is giving, and if they are not able to respond to that, then eventually the benefits go down, or the organizations does not eventually get the real
The
purpose behind it.
operators will create the friction.
Yeah, and yes, because the operators are more used to their usual methods of operating the plant, and they don't want to see a lot of messages on the screens. They're not used to that part. And when the system becomes a bit more, let's say, smart, sensitive, it gives you all of the information. So sometimes the operator, they just ignore that information and let the system running. But that is definitely one of the challenges, that how much ready, or how what is the engagement level, what is the willingness level of the organization, of the people that are going to use that system is very important. And generally, whenever we are going to deliver the projects, it comes with some kind of on-site trainings as well, because we also feel that if we are going to deliver capital intensive, let's say, setup to the system, then it must be backed with adequate training. And normally customers, the ones who are very let's say keen to learn about the new system, they also let's say prefer to have some on-site trainings for before the system is fully handed over to the plant or to the operations side. So that is definitely a challenge, because switching from the old conventional methods to this new setup, people do hesitate a bit.
Yeah, it
And
will require training, it will require management of change, it will require people giving up what they've been used to for a very long time.
yes, yes, yes. Normally, people think that now they have to learn something new. So sometimes new learning is also some resistance. But eventually, let's say, if our way of doing it is to train the people as much as in their own style, so that they are the ones who take the ownership of the system, and then ultimately that is beneficial for the entire organization.
Thank you, Usman. That was a wonderful session, and I hope our audiences were able to learn a lot from the experience and insight you brought here. We'll be back with more episodes really soon. In the meantime, if you haven't seen the rest of our series, you can check them out in the links around here. We'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye.